All right, everybody, in this week's Picks Parenting Plus, navigating your child's educational needs in a very complicated system. There are more than 900,000 students enrolled in New York City public schools. Nearly a quarter of them require an IEP, or an individualized education program.
A recent report on the state of pediatric care found that 1 in 5 children experience developmental delays. Early intervention is the key to making sure your child does not fall behind. So joining us this morning is the founder of Coral Care, Jen Wirt, to guide us on what steps we can take to become better advocates for our children. So good morning, Jen. Great to have you here.
Good morning. Great to be here.
So you decided to help parents because you went through your own challenges with your daughter. Can you kind of tell us a story of what happened with you?
Yeah, so my oldest daughter is about 8.5 right now, but when she was a baby, she experienced developmental delays, which so many kids do as a parent. You're actively tracking milestones and you're kind of watching for them to do the one thing that comes next, and she wasn't doing it. And so we followed the path that many parents do. We went to the pediatrician who said there's this state program and you can get early intervention care. And it's quick and it's free, and unfortunately that just wasn't the case for us. We waited over 8 months to get her seen for an appointment. Then we moved and had to kind of do it again. And so I really lived this pain of struggling to navigate care and turned it into just fueling that mission to build something to solve this problem for as many parents as possible.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you need that specialist real quick, and just to get in the door could take some time. And this is a real reality. According to Coral Care research, 1 in 5 children have a developmental delay, right? And that's a hard truth for many parents to understand. And some of them might look at it and say, oh, well, maybe it's just taking them longer. So what are some of the signs?
Yeah, so in the very early days, the signs could be that your child isn't hitting those milestones that I mentioned. So they're not rolling over to both sides. They're not crawling or getting into a crawl position, pointing, smiling. As they get older, there are different milestones that come into play. So when you're looking at all the way up through school readiness, stringing together a certain number of words based on how old they are, socializing and reacting in conversation in the right way. And then there are other things that I feel like are maybe a little bit more invisible, which are transitioning between activities can be a really big one, resulting in a lot of children to fall apart, being able to sit still in a chair, all the things that we don't really think about or talk about, but are so critical for a child to be successful in the classroom.
Well, because you might write it off and say, oh, well, it's a toddler being a toddler, or whatever it may be.
Exactly. So what are some of the things like intervention that parents can do to prevent that from happening?
So the biggest thing is to just pay attention to your child and try to be as aware as possible of what's going on and document it. We all have so many things in our heads that sometimes you just forget to write down the thing and then don't retrieve it at your appointment. But there are public services available. As I mentioned, the wait lists are pretty paralyzing for many parents through both the state and the school districts, but you can always look for private care. And I think a lot of parents are told, oh, my child doesn't qualify. The thing is that qualifying is really based on a set of standards for that program. So in the case of the school, it's can this child access the curriculum? Can they learn? Can they participate in a classroom? But there might be something that your child is exhibiting that doesn't show up in school or doesn't necessarily relate to the classroom, but is really critical for them to grow and thrive. And so that's where private can be really helpful, both as a supplement or as a replacement.
Now, does private cost more money?
It has historically, and so that's what Coral Care has really gone to change. There is a problem where there just aren't enough in-network providers for a variety of reasons, and so we've set about to just create a massive network of in-network clinicians to come to the home and deliver care.
I mean, obviously it's not one solution solves it for every single child, but playtime, structuring playtime into a child's daily schedule, does that help?
Definitely. And so when we think about what a child's job is to play and learn. And a lot of the learning does happen through play. And so in the early days, that could be giving your child a shape sorter and allowing them to problem solve. As they get a little older, it could be an art project where they can work on their fine motor skills, which will later translate to them being able to write an essay in class. It could be the playground is a really great place to play for them to challenge their bodies to go on different contraptions in the playground that might be a little bit different and kind of balance their own risk.
Now, how do you know, or when do you go about the IEP, which is the Individualized Education Program, and who do you speak to about that?
So children in the public school have access to request an IEP, and that is a plan for your child to be able to get in-school support. As I mentioned, it does depend on that qualification of, does it relate to your child accessing the curriculum?
Yeah.
And so it is a right that you have as a parent to request it. Really, it's important to walk in to your teacher, to your child's teacher, and to say, here's what's going on with my child, we've documented it, here's what I see at home, and really explaining like the exact scenarios of what you're seeing and when, and then to request that evaluation, but also to find out who the point person is, who you can contact in that situation, so that it doesn't just become this waiting game of hoping somebody will come to you.
So over the summer, a lot of these kids that already have these individualized programs, they're on a break also. So how do you prepare those students for the upcoming school year then?
So the great thing about private therapy is you can start at any time. You can start in the middle of summer and you can start school off to a great start. For those seeking school care, it's, as I mentioned, just writing everything down that you're seeing and really preparing it so that when your child is assigned their teacher, you can walk in and say, like, here's what we saw over the summer, here's what my child's been working on, here's past intervention that they've received, and just kind of creating that file for your child.
All right. Really good information, Jen. Appreciate you coming in to kind of lay it all out for us and sharing your expertise.
How are your kids doing?
They're doing great. They're at summer camp, having a great time, enjoying the outdoors.
Good.
Good to hear. Thanks, Jen. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks.